Hi everyone, welcome back for another video. Today's video, it's about heating your house with just electricity. I want to get rid of our oil boiler. I hate having an oil tank outside with the smell of oil every time I go around the back of the garage and back of the house. I do not like it. That's one of the biggest reasons I want to get rid of it. Two, there's all the environmental factors, stop burning stuff. I do not want to burn oil into the future. I want to use electricity. My strategy, if you've watched some of my videos before, is all about converting all of my energy use from petrol and diesel, getting rid of that, going electric car, which I've done previously, getting rid of oil boilers and going electricity, so I want to do that in the future, and basically converting to use electricity for everything. Then couple that with generating my own electricity, basically I'm going to become energy independent. And that's what I want, to be as off-grid as possible and to be as energy independent as possible. Recently, over the last 5 or 6 months, energy prices have been absolutely rocketing. And I haven't really felt the stress of that. I haven't worried about how much my bill's going to be because I know most of my energy that I use is all from my own solar panels. We've got 6.3 kilowatts of solar panels on the roof. We've got a 5 kilowatt hour storage battery here as well. That works extremely well so that most of the year we don't use any energy, hardly any at all, from the grid. So our bills are an absolute pittance. My direct debit is £1 a month to Octopus Energy. I'm in credit with them, but I have to spend £1 a month at least on the direct debit. But the energy bills we get are like a £5 here, a £10 there, and I think last month, October, was only £18. Who else has electricity bills and home heating bills and running your car to the level of £18 a month? It is crazy, and it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant to be energy independent. So if you're new to all of this and you haven't got solar panels, then start to think about it. Align everything. Get rid of all your oil, your diesel, your gas, get rid of all of those things and start planning to go electric and generate your own electricity and become more energy independent. That's my plan. So 5 or 6 months ago, I did a video where I started the process of looking at heating our home and heating our hot water with just electricity. So that started by measuring the amount of litres of kerosene that we used for that job over an entire year. So I think it was around May that I did the measure, and it worked out to be 675 litres of oil that we'd use to heat hot water and heat the house. Now, obviously, we do have a Myenergi Eddi device, and that diverts solar energy to heat the hot water via the immersion tank, the immersion heater in the normal hot water tank. So we do use that as well. So our oil that we were using to heat the hot water is mostly just in the winter anyway. We don't have the oil boiler on to heat hot water or the house, obviously during about 6 months of the year when there's enough sunshine. So getting rid of the oil boiler, there are lots and lots of choices. You'll hear mostly people talking about air source heat pumps. Then there are ground source heat pumps, but then there are air conditioning units that you can use that both cool your house in the summer and can provide heat during the winter. There are infrared panels, there are ceramic radiators, there are all sorts of things that you can do. What I want to do is look at my budget of 675 litres of oil, multiply that out by the price of oil at the time in May and the price I think it will go to, and that gives me a budget for how much energy I can spend to heat my home to the same level. So if I equate that to kilowatt hours for that same monetary value, so not calorific value difference between oil and electricity, but instead the actual price that I would pay for the oil, and then equate that to how many kilowatt hours is my budget for heating my home. I worked out on my price of electricity 5 months ago that it was about 11 pence a kilowatt hour I was paying. That gave me a budget of 17 kilowatt hours to heat my home and hot water. 17 kilowatt hours. But if I moved across to Octopus Go and then had cheap rate electricity overnight, and I stored it in my home storage battery and boosted my hot water and did all those things early in the morning, so my average cost per kilowatt hour was down to 5 pence, then obviously my budget would go up to 34 kilowatt hours. So I've got a budget of between 17 kilowatt hours and 34 kilowatt hours, depending on the price of electricity at the time. Now that's something else that needs to be done soon. I need to recalculate based on what the price of oil is now and what the price of electricity is now, and see what my budget is and see whether that budget has varied at all from 17 to 34. Because I guess it's going to change every year as electricity prices go up or oil prices come down. Your budgets are going to change. But what I want to know is going electric going to cost me more, or is it going to save me money? Because I'm apprehensive that the oil boiler was very efficient. I didn't use a lot of energy for that. Will going electric cost me more? So I want to know, can I do it in budget? Because if I can do it in budget with COP1 devices, so devices where 1 kilowatt hour of electricity going in produces 1 kilowatt hour of energy coming out, then if I can do it with that, then an air source heat pump would use even less energy, because it's COP values of even as high as 3 or 4 or 5 in some cases. Then going down the rate of electricity should mean that I can heat my home and hot water for less money than I was with my oil boiler. That's the point of the test that I'm doing. But along the way, I'm going to learn what it's like. Is there a difference between heating your home with electricity and then heating it with a central heating oil boiler? How does it feel? What are the differences? And because they're portable heaters that I'm using, I'm going to be able to position them in different places, different rooms, and find out where we need more heat in our house and our use of it. So there's lots of things to find out, but most of it's about the budget. So how have we got on? Well, September was a fantastically sunny month, so it was warm. We did not need the heaters on at all. I was even exporting energy to the grid, and I didn't need to turn them on because it would have just provided too much heat in the house. So September, no heating whatsoever. Occasionally, we have in the past lit the log burner that we have because it feels cold. Now that's what we've used the log burner for, on days where it's not quite cold enough to turn the heating system on, but you want a top up of warmth. So that's when the log burner has been used previously. September, didn't use any source of heating. October, we would definitely normally have the log burner going, but not the central heating system. Some years we get all the way through to the end of October or even very early November, like now, without turning the central heating system on, but we would have used the log burner. This year, no log burner and no central heating system, even though it's only the central heating system that I'm trying not to use. We haven't used the log burner. We haven't felt like using it. The radiators have done such a good job. We didn't need it. So October's been interesting because basically it started mild and it's been getting colder and colder, and then we had a few days where there was some overnight ground frost, and by the end of the month and now early November, it's bloomin' cold overnight. You know, it is 3 degrees outside and 5 degrees, and it's consistently cold during the days some days. So the house is getting chilly at times. The way I'm measuring what we want to do with the heating is the heating thermostat, the central heating thermostat in the hallway. During September, that would read 19.5 degrees all day, and it would drop to 18.5 degrees overnight. In October, I've started to notice that temperature has been dropping down. So first thing in the morning, it's been dropping another ½ degree almost every day. So it's down to 17.5, and then the next day it's 17 degrees, then 16.5. And it was when it got to first thing in the morning, it was 16 degrees in the hallway. At that point, it felt too cold. At that point, I needed to start turning the radiators on first thing in the morning at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning. Cracker, come and sit down. To give us some additional heat so that we didn't feel that chill first thing in the morning. So I can't remember the exact day that happened. So I started basically turning on one radiator to provide some extra heat, and then gradually I've been turning on other radiators as it still felt colder, and we want to boost that temperature so that when we get up in the morning, the room downstairs, the hallway and our lounge and the rooms that were generally around first thing in the morning, we want those at least 18 degrees. Now what I've found is the hallway and the central core of the house has been as high as 20 degrees first thing in the morning. If I get up to make a cup of tea at 6:30 in the morning, the heaters have literally just gone off. It is extremely warm in the house, warmer than it would be if we had the central heating system on. But we didn't have our radiator on in the bedroom, so that room was still cool. But in the last couple of days, it's not been cool. It's been cold. It's been down to as low as 13 degrees at some points during the day. And when we've woke up in the morning, it's probably been around 15 degrees, and that's just too cold. So now we've started turning on the bedroom radiator as well. So that goes on just before we go to bed in the evening, and it also goes on first thing in the morning between 5 and 6 and boosts the temperature in the room for when we're getting up. That is working extremely well. Again, using those boosts, we're finding that we're warmer than we were with the central heating system, because we would be avoiding turning the central heating system on during times to try and economize on using oil. Now, it just seems a bit easier to turn the radiators on, especially with cheap electricity at only 4.5 pence a kilowatt hour. We're a bit freer and easier with the heat, and the house generally feels a bit warmer than it would do if we were using the central heating system. I didn't expect that. I thought that I would still be the same efficiency wise, but what I'm finding is I was more economical and more apprehensive of using oil than I am about electricity. Cheap electricity in the morning and free electricity from solar is more abundant, it's more renewable, it's greener. I don't feel the same pressures for, pressure's the wrong word, but I don't feel the same inclination to save energy, save the oil. With the electricity, it's freer and easier, and we're using more of it. So the house is a warmer temperature. So we've basically been heating our hallway, our lounge, and our bedroom, and our daughter's bedroom independently using those radiators. Some of the rooms we're not heating at all. The kitchen we're not heating at all. There's a lot of glass in that room, and yes, it gets cold because of that, but as soon as the sun comes up, the room gets warm. And most of the time when we're in there, we're cooking, and that provides the warmth. So at the moment, we haven't had a heater in there at all, and we don't have any heaters in any of our wet rooms. So the cloakroom, the ensuite, and the bathroom, no heating on at all. So that's only gaining warmth from when we have showers, or from when there's permeated heat from the walls going through into the rooms. So those are going to be a challenge going forward. This isn't a system that I expect to work forevermore. This is just a test, so I am going to have problems, and I think those bathrooms are going to be an issue that I need to resolve. But at the moment, our core rooms, the bedrooms, the lounge and the hallway, and the kitchen without any heaters, that's actually working quite well. So let's have a look. How many kilowatt hours? How close are we to our budget of 17 to 34 kilowatt hours? So if I have a look over here now at my Casa smart plugs, so these are all energy monitors, I can see on each of them how many kilowatt hours we've used over a day, over the last 28 days, or let's look at the last 7 days. Because 7 days covers 5 days of November and a couple of days of October. Those have been the coldest days. Let's have a look at the worst so far this year. Right, 7 days, 2.38 kilowatt hours. So let's call that 2.5 for that radiator. That's in our bedroom, so that's using not a lot. Charlotte's bedroom, only 3.5 kilowatt hours, so more than us, but less overall. So 2.5 and 3.5, that's 6 kilowatt hours. The hallway, the biggest radiator, 18 kilowatt hours. 18 and 6 is 24. The second hall radiator, which is on at the moment, oh, another 19. So the hall is getting most of the electricity. So what was that? 24 plus 19, 34, 43 kilowatt hours we're up to. And the lounge, 43 plus 12 is 55 kilowatt hours, and the last one, we have a little heat source on this one, on the spare one, another 3, 55, 58 kilowatt hours is what we've used in the last 7 days for heating the house. No other sources of heating apart from what's on those Casa smart plugs, apart from the sun coming through the windows and using the oven, which obviously provides some heat. But no other heat sources. We haven't lit the fire. We haven't used an oil boiler. So 60 kilowatt hours, let's round it up to 60 kilowatt hours, 7 days. That's still less than 10 kilowatt hours a day. And the lowest temperature outside, according to the stats, it's been 3 degrees on the weather sites, but we've had ground frosts. I wouldn't say a really, really hard one. There's been one light one and one decent ground frost so far, and then a few days where it's been close to a frost. So it has been quite cold. not minus, hasn't been really, really icy all day, nothing like that, but less than 10 kilowatt hours a day. And we think we are providing more heat, more warmth into the house than what we'd normally have, apart from those wet rooms, the cloakroom, bathroom, and ensuite. The one thing that is evident right now with no heat in those rooms is that where do you dry your towel? So you've had a shower, you've had a bath, you've been drying your hands in the cloakroom, you've got a damp towel. How does that towel get dry? In the summer, after a shower, I'd hang the towel out on the line in the sunshine, hang it in the garden, and that would dry the towel. In the winter previously, you'd hang it over your towel rail, and with the heating on, that would dry it. Now we don't have those towel rails on. That's the problem to be resolved. So that is what I want to do later. Just flick this back and put it back on the Myenergi app in case we can see some stats on that. I had a lot of spinning wheel on that lately today, so it's spinning now and it's connecting and it's not showing what we're actually doing. Normally that would show what's going on, so I can see if we've got an excess, see if I can turn on some extra heaters. Let's put it back on the Solaredge app. That shows me whether I'm exporting. Yeah, we are. We're exporting 1.4 kilowatts. So if I've got a kilowatt of energy spare, let's turn on an extra heater. Let's turn on that one. There we go. Day in the life of a solar geek controlling his heaters from his tablet. So I want to try a couple more tests during the month. There's a few things that I want to try. One is leaving the heaters on overnight. So I want to find out not just how much energy it takes to boost the heat first thing in the morning using cheap energy, but how many kilowatt hours would it take to keep the hallway in our house at 18, 19, 20 degrees overnight. How many heaters do I need to keep on, and how many kilowatt hours would it use? Because once the house gets to the right temperature, the thermostat should kick in and out on the heater and use less energy. So I'm using more energy to boost the house to a temperature than what it would take to consistently keep it at that temperature. So I want to do a test for at least a couple of days consistently where we have the heaters on continuously and see what happens and how many kilowatt hours extra it takes to heat the house for a longer period of time. It might work out economical to leave a heater on continuously somewhere. But I'm not used to using the home storage battery the way we are at the moment. I'm used to the home storage battery just covering the night load, and it gets to used during the day to top up where we're using more than what the solar is providing. Whereas now using these heaters, the couple of days we've already run out of the battery before the morning. So normally I wouldn't top up the battery using grid energy or even cheap grid energy. The only time that I would do that is if we had an agile price plunge and I was being paid to do it, because we've got enough solar energy. Solar energy would top the home storage battery up. Now we're using more energy, so I'm running out of the batteries. We're having to top that up from the grid on cheap energy every day. So I'm starting the day with 100% in our battery, where I'm used to starting the day with 30, 40, 50% in the battery and letting it grow during the day. Now I need that 100% in the battery because after 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30, when the radiators go off from using cheap energy, I need to keep those radiators going at some point to keep us warm first thing in the morning before we take Cracker out for a walk. I don't want to use the expensive grid energy. I want to use the energy from the battery. So I'm using the battery very differently now because I'm using more electricity during the day. That's definitely an observation. And the fact that I'm running out so early, and the fact that I can now tell that we're using around 9, 10 kilowatt hours a day makes me think that my 5 kilowatt hour battery is not the right size for what we need going forward when we have heating with electricity as well. I need at least double that. I need at least a 10 kilowatt hour battery. I probably think 3 times that is about the right size, 15 kilowatt hours. Knock off 10% for depth of discharge. That really is the size of a Tesla Powerwall. That's the size that I need heating as well. In the summer it'll be ridiculous. I'll probably only use 10 or 20% of the battery during the day, so in the summer it's going to be extreme. But in the winter I'm going to need that capacity on boosting it with cheap electricity and then providing heat into the house from the battery. So learning about that as well, battery configuration, it's all coming together with these stats, working out how many kilowatt hours I need to budget. But so far in November, early November at least, and October, that budget of 17 to 34 kilowatt hours is very, very easy to achieve. Remember I said 9 to 10 kilowatt hours from the Casa smart plugs for heating? That does not include what we use for hot water. And that, during the summer, sometimes that can only be 3 to 4 kilowatt hours a day. But now during the winter, that's going up because the water source temperature is much, much lower and we're using hot water more. That's gone up, and I'd probably say on average 6 kilowatt hours is what we're using a day. It can be as high as 7 or even 8 when we use more water. So 6 kilowatt hours a day on top of the 10 to heat the house is 16. That really is quite close to that initial budget of 17 kilowatt hours, which just goes to show that even on full rate electricity, electric heating is still going to be comparable in cost to what we were paying for oil, and we're experiencing that we're warmer, we're getting more heat, we're more liberal in its usage than we were with oil. So far everything looks really, really positive, because if I have cheaper electricity, that I do with the Octopus Go Faster tariff at only 4.5 pence a kilowatt hour, then I've got a much bigger budget. And therefore I can be much freer with the use of electricity and how much I heat the home. And if I had an air source heat pump, then my hot water heating and my house heating electricity costs would be even lower. So kilowatt hours and the amount it's going to cost me to heat the home seems to make sense going electric. That's my initial thoughts here. Now what I'll find out is over December and January, when there's less solar and more colder days. I don't know how severe the winter's going to be this year. I don't know if we're going to have another beast from the east, etc., where I think it was February, wasn't it, when that happened? It was atrocious. We had a several week period, or was it even a month-long period, where it was like -10. That would be a real good challenge for electric heating, and it'll be interesting to see how many kilowatt hours we use. But at the moment, October was an absolute breeze. November is looking like it's going to work as well. I want to do these tests to work out. He wants to go outside again. The cracker's just laying on the sofa next to me. I want to work out all of these nuances to how it looks and how it feels. Talking about how it feels, it's not just me and the data. I've been asking both Charlotte and Susan what they think of the heat in the house and how we're using it and how different it is from what it was last year using the central heating system. And it's really, really surprised me that both of them have said it's better. It's better having an independent source of heat in each room than it was having a central heating system. Charlotte especially absolutely loves having her own personal radiator in her room. It's not just the radiator, it's that she controls when it's on, or she can control when it's on. And therefore she gets heat exactly when she wants. And she says she gets more. With the central heating radiator, it would often go off because downstairs was warm enough, so it would turn the heating off. Then her room would get cooler when she didn't want it to be cool. Now, when we're happy with the temperature downstairs, but she's not and she wants a boost, she can have the warmth in the room how she wants. That independence, that distributed heating works better for her than what the central heating system did. So if we go for a central heating system like an air source heat pump again, making it more controllable than our oil boiler system is something that we really need to do, because we have enjoyed just this last month and a half of having more independent heat. It has worked really, really well for us. Susan also, I'm really surprised. I thought she was going to be moaning like mad, saying, can we have some more heat? I'm absolutely froze. But she hasn't. She's actually said, can you turn it down on a couple of occasions? We've actually had more heat. She gets very cold in the evening, but she doesn't want a room in the bedroom to be like 20, 21 degrees. I think for her, it's better around 16, 17 degrees, maybe 18 degrees, whereas I'm happy a few degrees lower. I'm happy with the bedroom to be 15 to 16 overnight. So we've got all those differences about what we prefer personally, but so far it's working really well. Susan's busy away in the kitchen right now, no heater on, and she's as happy as anything. The sun's shining, the oven's on, it's plenty warm enough. So it does look like we're going to not just get away, but we're going to discover that we don't need heating sources in all the rooms of the house. Some are nice to have, that you need a boost every now and then. On a freezing day where, say, you're in the kitchen socialising and you haven't got the oven on, it might be nice to have a heat source in there, but it's not something we'd have on all the time. So we're definitely learning more doing this test. We're learning about how we use heat and what our preferences are, as well as, can you heat your home with electricity? So going back to that question, can you? Absolutely, you really can. The nagging thought in my mind is the cost of the air source heat pumps. To gain the benefit of having those lesser kilowatt hours consumed to heat your home and hot water, to have a £10,000 installed air source heat pump, it is a huge, huge cost. Now, yes, you can get grants, and yes, you can have the renewable heat incentive, and that pays you back some of the money. But I've just bought these heaters, these 6 heaters, for a couple of £100, and I bought 3 infrared glass panels for our wet rooms, and they were really, really cheap as well, just a couple of £100. So I've bought heating sources for independent installation for just a couple of £100. And the only thing they're going to be worse than the air source heat pumps, so it seems, if I can get a system based on just those things, is they'll use more kilowatt hours, but they're going to cost a lot more money. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I need more kilowatt hours. I'll have solar panels. I'll have a bigger home storage battery. Why can't I spend that £10,000 that I would be spending on an air source heat pump and spend it on a home storage battery and solar panels, but then have a more simple, lesser COP value electric heating system throughout the house? I don't know whether that's exactly what we're going to do, but it's sort of in my mind thinking about, if I'm about to spend a big chunk of money, where do I want to spend it? Do I want to spend it on ripping up the walls and the floor and putting in new electric supplies and underfloor heating and transforming the house infrastructure? Or do I want to just replace radiators and put electric ones on? Or do I need to replace the pipe work and some of the radiators for an air source heat pump? There's so many options about what to install and what the cost will be and how much will be for the radiator and how much will be for installation and redecoration. If I'm going to be chiseling out walls to put electric cables in, they'll have to be replastered and they'll have to be redecorated. So there's lots of things to think about with all of these options, and this test that I'm doing, hopefully I'm going to find out enough information to find out what heating system we want to install long term going forward. And I'm really enjoying the test. You know me, you've seen these videos before. I like tests and I like data, and this is working out really well because Charlotte's happy, Susan's happy, and I'm happy with all my data. This is working out really, really well so far. We've yet to try it with the log burner and see how many kilowatt hours of electricity that saves by having that on instead of heaters. We'll see over November. So tune in for some more. Tune in, that's an old term, isn't it? Watch again when we put a video up about our energy consumption, and also I'll do a separate one for these heating ones to let you know how we're getting on. And I hope it's still positive, but along the way, whatever I learn, I'll share with you. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you again soon. More videos, electric cars, solar panels, home storage batteries, and heating your home with electricity. Bye for now.